So I actually want to start getting ready in September for a January show.
Welcome to the Buns Thighs podcast, where we talk about fitness, health, and everything else. We help you move past all the marketing schemes, hacks, and Instagram trainers out there so that you can learn how to truly be fit. I'm a corrective exercise specialist, and I own PT&C Gym in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I help people reduce and eliminate chronic pain while also losing fat and gaining muscle. I bring into the show other personal trainers and clients who want to discuss topics that you will definitely want to hear about. If you want to learn how to get fit, listen to the show, and thank you for tuning in.
I always do that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Buns and Thighs. My name is Tim,
And I'm Paul.
and this is the Buns and Thighs podcast, as you heard from the intro. We're trying out that intro. It may rotate to another one or just be more refined. And we're definitely going to intro Paul into the intro so that he doesn't have to repeat it every single time.
Hey, it's all right, man.
So, Paul, how have you been?
Good. Just getting into a bunch of other things and training still. Learning a whole bunch of stuff about Legion, and it's changing. Some big changes coming there, so that's gonna be fun to report on. And yeah, nothing much. What about you, man? How's everything going for you?
I started a second LLC.
Hey, all right. What is it?
Yeah, it's called personal chefing company.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the storefront name is going to be My Personal Chef, and it's basically a meal prep service. And I'm getting all the tiny paperwork and filing and stuff, all the official work done before I can actually do it. And before you can do anything, you need an EIN, and before you have an EIN, you have to have an LLC or sole proprietorship, or whatever you want to do, S corp, all that.
Right.
And so I'm also learning a lot about tax law and things like that. My dad's a lawyer, and if I was to ever be a lawyer, I would be a tax attorney. That
Oh
is
yeah.
for sure. That stuff is really interesting to me. I know it changes like every year, but rich people that are in the 1%, they either have hired someone that knows tax law or they know tax law very, very well, and they have to. Otherwise, they won't stay rich. And
Right.
yeah, and if you're a business owner and you own an LLC and you actually want to stay in compliance, you have to start like picking up a few things about taxes. Like you at least have to know taxes for your business. You can't just rely on a tax professional. Like you have to know them in order to do some stuff. Like you have to keep all your receipts. There's another thing. The BOI. This is an announcement to anybody that owns an LLC that is listening to this podcast. The United States government came out with the BOI bill, and if you do not register your LLC or your business, sole proprietorship, anything you own, business-wise, under the BOI, you could be fined up to $500 a day per business. Yeah.
The
If
heck?
if you started your I just registered both of my LLCs with the BOI today. But if and also to do it, it's free and super easy. For tax professionals are charging people $1,200 and scaring them to register for them and all that. Yeah, it's crazy right now. But
Jeez.
if you don't do it, those consequences are enforceable, and it's basically so people don't do tax fraud with their LLCs. They're cracking down on that more,
Okay.
and they're basically, the point of it is to designate one benefactor or to list all the benefactors of the LLC, like who's all getting paid. You have to list them. That's the point of the BOI. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so um, I heard of this through my client. I'm like, what? Like, I've never heard of this.
I've
And
never heard of it either.
exactly. I was like, I didn't get a letter in the mail. Like, my home address is the mailing address for my LLC, both of them.
Yeah, same
And
here.
I didn't know any of this. And she was like, yeah. And she works for the government. She's like, yeah. And they're trying to get it out as much as possible, but they're also not trying to get it out as much as possible. So they're trying. And it's so that they can catch certain people in non-compliance. And I'm like, that's illegal. Like that should definitely be illegal.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, what would have happened if I didn't ever hear about this because no one ever notified me? And she was like, well, you could be susceptible to all those fines. Will you be fined? That's a big question mark because no one can afford $500 a day. Yeah. And so anybody that started their LLC before January 1st, 2024, you have until the end of this year. Anybody who started their LLC um, this year, basically, you have 90 days to get into compliance. And somewhere in there it says something about 30 days. And so anybody that owns an LLC, go search BOI requirements and get your butt in gear and go do that.
Yeah, I need to go do that then, because I've got my drone business and then my personal training business. I need to get in
Yeah.
on that.
And it's a little weird that they didn't tell anybody. And it's all over the internet. If you search it, it's all over the internet. But no one's actually trying to go to you and tell you, "Hey, go do this."
Government.
Government, man.
Hmm. I'm a Ron Swan when it comes to government.
So yeah, that's kind of what I've been wigging out about today and over the last few days. And with the meal prep stuff, dude, I have a whole list. Let me pull up my list. I'll pull it up on here. I got so many things to do for the meal prep, and it is a little daunting. I'm not gonna lie. One second, let me pull up my counting here. Meal prep. There we go. All right, so the things I have done: form a second LLC, register the EIN. That's it. Oh, and name it. What I
All
have
right, let me
left
look
to
at my
do.
list. I started. All right, there we go.
Name. That's
Yeah,
I
exactly.
literally just wrote the name of the business. I made the business exist. That's it. Next, I have to register for a sales tax license. I have to get a food handler's permit. I gotta
Mm.
acquire a food establishment license or find a shared kitchen, which is what I'm gonna do, that has a food establishment license. Um, I'm not going to get a cottage food license yet until I go to like jarred things and jams and all that, which I'm probably not going to, but that's just there. It's a requirement that if I were to do something from my house, I need a cottage license, but I can't do anything that's risky at my house. So no meat, no dairy, no nothing like that. It's all like jams and honey and things like that. Things that don't go bad and have no risk. Um, I have to have I have to have proper labeling and packaging under compliance. So I don't even know what that means. So I'll figure it out.
Proper labeling.
Yeah.
I guess you're gonna have to like do all the calories, do whatever all the ingredients are.
Well, the thing, what I'm worried about is, do I need like an FDA approved label or what? So I'm still in the figuring out stage of that part. Like it's possible, so I'll get it done. And I'll be in compliance. I just need some maze, you know. Just gotta
Oh yeah,
just gotta figure it all out.
it's like they want to
Uh,
make it tough for small business owners.
and then I got the business records, operating permits, contracts and agreements, quality control measures, and customer service procedures. Those are basically the get people to like my business kind of part of it. So that's not really the most important part. But before that, all those are required. And so I gotta basically just check off those as I go.
Man,
Yeah.
dude,
But
that's so much that you're gonna have to get accomplished.
yeah. And I'm also creating a menu, which I've actually decided I'm okay, I say a menu. I'm actually making an anti-menu. So basically you list the ingredients that you like, and then you trust me to make meals that are good. That's basically how it's going. Right now we're in beta test, and so um, let's say friends and family are what I'm testing it on, and everyone is liking the system so far. Like basically, they don't have to continuously pick like a hamburger or a tuna something or a like whatever. They list all the ingredients that they like, and they leave it up to me to make it satisfactory to make whatever meals. It also, a little bit on the back end, that helps me make bulk things for multiple people. Yeah. So if a lot of people like some of the same stuff, I make big portions and boom, save a lot of money. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but that's kind of the updates on the newly named personal chef and company, or
Nice.
AKA my personal chef.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you could have had the initials PCP, that would have been even more funny.
Well, I mean, if I just leave out the ampersand, it is PCP. All
See,
right.
there you go.
So I know I kind of want to do a hot and cold kind of thing where last episode we did talk a lot about personal stuff and things like that. I kind of want to just jump straight into the fitness today, if you're good with it.
Yeah.
All right. So, first thing I want to talk about was diabetes and how it affects people that are trying to work out if they have diabetes, uh, how it affects muscle gain, how it affects fat loss, how it affects a lot of things, and what to do to mitigate some of those challenges, and what to do if you are diabetic and trying to gain muscle and work out. Um, First, I want to ask Paul, do you have any comments before I kind of jump into the points that I want to make?
For the most part, I've had clients that have had diabetes, and for the most part, just kind of tried to train them. And you know, after you're done working out is when you're most insulin sensitive. So like that's when they should really have a lot of the sugar for the most part, and aka carbs is mostly what I'd tell them to do. But other than that, there's really not much info I have or can give on that.
Well, strap up your boots, boys and girls. 'Cause we're about to get deep in
Sounds
diabetes.
good.
So, one of my very good friends of mine, oh, a very good friend of mine, I'm gonna leave him nameless. He is diabetic type 1, and we became really good friends as I was becoming a personal trainer for the very first time, about 7 years ago, and maybe a little bit before that. And we, I basically learned a lot firsthand from him before I even opened a book about it and did anything towards education towards it. Diabetes type 1 is really hard to live with. For one, you have to basically pay to be alive because of insulin. Insurance doesn't cover all of insulin and stuff. For some people, it doesn't cover it at all. And for my friend, it didn't cover it at all. So he has to buy his insulin every month. They have to make sure it's in stock, which is sometimes it's not. And so basically anything that comes with ordering product, those kind of like issues can happen with insulin. And so, and also it has to be like if you change doctors, like you have to make somebody else believe they have diabetes. And you're just like, I need insulin, give it to me. And so
Hmm.
that's one of the biggest things that kind of not perked my interest, but kind of put a soft spot in my heart for people that are diabetic. And so I was like, okay, that blows. It really does. And as I was becoming a personal trainer, I looked at my best friend. I was like, you know what? What if I specialize in diabetes? And he was like, dude, I'd be honored. That'd be awesome. And you can help me get swole. I'm like, all right. And this is before I really knew anything about being a personal trainer. But I did always have an affinity towards knowledge when it had to do with diabetics. And one of the biggest things that I discovered and noticed, and when I told, you know what, I don't think he'll mind. His name is Chris, because I keep on trying to say the person, my friend, but you know, I'm almost saying Chris every time, so I'm gonna say. All right, so Chris basically told me, he was like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. Diabetics, it's really hard for them to gain muscle because of the lack of insulin in their body. Insulin is one of the major factors of building muscle, and and also carbohydrates are one of the main factors of building muscle. And so those two being wacky in the first place in their body, gaining muscle and retaining muscle are also two really hard things to do for a diabetic. Not all diabetics are larger people. Some diabetics are really frail, small people. And it's because of their both have a lack of muscle. Some people, they eat too much, and since their lack of metabolism, because of their lack of muscle, they gain too much weight. Some people, they're scared of food, and they don't eat at all, almost. And so they're really small people. And so it's rare to see a muscular diabetic. And if you do see a muscular diabetic, that means that they know exactly what to do scientifically. And we're about to get into it. So, one of the major issues with gaining muscle as a diabetic is the lack of copious amounts of carbs and a limiter on carbs, and even a culture fear around carbs for diabetics, even if your doctor tells you, hey, 60 grams is okay. By the way, mentioning doctors, not a doctor, not a doctor on hold on, both sides of the screen, not a doctor. We are personal trainers. We do have our certifications. We do have experience, years of experience, better parts of a decade for both of us. But what we are saying needs to be verified with your doctor if you're going to try it out first. That disclaimer being said, continuing. Where was I?
The small guys, big guys,
Yes.
getting all muscle.
If a doctor tells one of their patients that's diabetic, hey, you can eat 60 grams of carbohydrates a day, that's it. They're thinking, oh gosh, I don't even know what 60 grams of carbs look like, so I'm just not going to eat carbs. Instead, what they should be doing is like, okay, I have a parameter. I have 60 carbs to play with. That's it. So I need to put 20 to 30 carbs in before their workout, 20 to 30 carbs after the workout, and all of it should be complex carbohydrates, except for in the very beginning, maybe some simple, but for a diabetic, mostly complex carbohydrates. You don't want to up your glycemic index. You don't want to spike your insulin. You don't want to cause a response that caused the diabetes in the first place. And if you were to sandwich your complex carbohydrates, very low glycemic index carbohydrates, and use them particularly for your workout, one for performance so you don't feel like crap, and you have at least some carbs, some glucose in your bloodstream while you're working out, you use it, it never spikes your bloodstream, you have a higher performance in the gym, and then afterwards, your insulin sensitivity is at the highest point it is in for the day, then more carbs, still within your parameter that your doctor set for you. I've heard of 50 grams to 200 grams. And it just varies per diabetic. And every single doctor will basically, every patient has a different amount. It's individual. But once you get that parameter, you do the sandwich model around your workout, before and after. Not in the morning for breakfast, not at night when you're going to bed, not just when you feel like it. It has to be directly inserted inside your day around your workout. That way you can use your carbs for muscle growth and performance in the gym, and that will kickstart the muscle gaining and just the muscle blueprint basically. Now, the reason why you don't want to do simple carbs as a diabetic for your dietary needs and for the workout and for the muscle gaining is the reason why diabetes is a thing in the first place. How do you get diabetes? In a nutshell, there's more to it than what I'm about to say, but this is basically a layman's terms version of it so that everyone can understand it. One person drinks, let's say a simple sugar is a Coca-Cola. One person drinks a Coca-Cola 6 times a day, or 2 times a day, whatever. And they do that for 2 years straight. Let's say it's various different things, some candy, some ice cream, licorice, whatever. A bunch of moments in their life where they spiked their glucose levels, and then their insulin spiked in response. And then it went down. Let's say this person's not working out either. There's no reason for them to have this much energy whatsoever. And their glucose levels go up, their insulin levels go up, their glucose levels go down in a crash because a simple sugar burns up like lighter fluid, but their insulin levels do not go back down. And so it's free riding, and it's like, hey, where's all the glucose? And your brain registers that and is like, whoa, what is all this insulin doing in our body? Pancreas, shut that shit down. And over a span of years of that repeated, basically cried wolf syndrome for the insulin, it stops producing it because it thinks that you don't need insulin. And then it also doesn't take blood sugar as a insulin trigger anymore. And so that is basically how diabetes is a thing. And there's stages, and it happens over time, and it happens over a repeated pattern, and that's diabetes type 2. And before that, onset diabetes, or what's called pre-diabetes. And before that, insulin insensitivity. And so it's a pattern. Basically, it's a repeated pattern that doesn't change, and it has to do with the amount of simple sugars that you repeatedly use without actually using them, and your insulin going up without it needing to be up. And so that's basically it. If you are the type of person that eats simple sugars and then works out, you're using all the glucose and you're using the insulin for various reasons. And so that also helps mitigate diabetes. I know I don't want to ramble the entire time. Paul, do you have any comments while I take a break real quick?
No, not really. Yeah, what you're saying is, I mean, just accurate. I have really nothing to add. I mean, you're saying it all already.
Okay, cool. And away we go. All right, so now, how does somebody get rid of type 2 diabetes? It has been proven to be possible, and it's with muscle gain. If you were to gain more muscle as a diabetic, which is already hard in the first place. So point 1, it's hard to gain muscle. Point 2, the cause of diabetes. And point 3, how to get rid of diabetes type 2. Type 1, you can't get rid of. You're born with that. Type 2, it's through behavior. And some people are more susceptible to it, but that also is a skewed study because some people are in families where they don't work out and they're frail in the first place as a family. And so it's arguably, there's a genetic aspect to type 2, but really it's behavioral. In my opinion, it's behavioral, in my professional opinion. And the way that you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes, definitely reverse pre-diabetes, and definitely fix insulin insensitivity is adding muscle to your body. If you gain muscle and you do the carb sandwich and you actually successfully gain muscle as a diabetic, for one, muscle is a glucose sponge. The more muscle you have, the less glucose you have, freestanding glucose in your bloodstream. Because I have about 180, that number's probably off. It's probably either higher or lower, somewhere on there. I have 180 pounds of lean body mass. That's a lot of muscle. That means that when I drink a Coca-Cola, which I hate Coca-Cola, I'm more of a Diet Coke fan, but let's not get into the carcinogenic and
What about Pepsi?
No. But listen, if I drink a Pepsi, my blood sugar spikes less than a clone of me with half of the muscle mass. Same amount of mass, half of the muscle mass. Let's say I still weigh 265, but it's mostly fat, and I have much less muscle. That means that my blood basically becomes syrup, and the blood sugar level is risen through the roof. Whereas for me, because I do activity, my glycogen stores go down during the day. I drink something with a simple sugar in it, and it gets metabolized and put back into the muscle directly. That is one way to mitigate your blood sugar levels as a diabetic, is to gain muscle so that your blood sugar it's almost like a safeguard to your blood sugar levels. And it's a way to actually bring your blood sugar levels down without insulin. So it's basically, and this is also for type 1 as well. For type 1, you can't reverse type 2 diabetes, but you can make your life easier, and you can make it to where you have to use less insulin, saving you money as well. And just injecting yourself less, which honestly is probably a good is a very good thing. Chris complained about having to poke himself all the time because he likes beer. So yeah,
Everyone's got their little thing that they want to indulge on.
right. And so this is it's a huge thing to know this as a diabetic. And also cardio, heart health, brain health, all you everything that helps a person in general will help you, but especially gaining muscle. That's going to help you lower the pattern of constant high blood sugar, high insulin, low blood sugar, high insulin. That repeated pattern, that's what caused the diabetes. You went to the doctor, you probably curbed your diet because the doctor said, "Hey, you got to stop eating like this. You can only eat like this now." Then you're like, "Okay, what do I do?" And you have diabetes type 2, you're eating no carbs, and you're on the keto diet because your doctor said so. And the next step is to go and gain some muscle. If you gain some muscle, it actually regulates your insulin production as well and your insulin sensitivity. Just like Paul said, after every workout, your insulin sensitivity is at the highest. You can train your insulin sensitivity to go up and up and up very slowly. And over time, you can literally, and it has been proven, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. And that is the main point that I want to get across. If you're diabetic type 2 or pre-diabetic, or just you've been diagnosed as right underneath pre-diabetic and you're insulin insensitive, gain some muscle, find out how to gain some muscle, listen to this podcast, go to both our websites, and you will literally immediately feel a difference. And it'll change your entire life as a diabetic. If you're not diabetic, it's good for you too. And that's the end of my diabetic spiel.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, you can also they should also be reading books, just in case. I've heard that a high-fat breakfast also kind of helps to regulate blood sugar for a majority of the day. And yeah, working out obviously drains a lot of the sugar from the muscles, and your body's wanting to absorb all of that sugar. And so, yeah, working out and then trying to get your carbs in after that is the best way to kind of help to fuel the muscles. And nutrient timing is also, again, like I've mentioned it before, a really good book for anyone interested in trying to figure out when to have most of the macronutrients.
So, whenever the other podcast, not the last one, but a few ago, I think now, you were talking about the nutrient timing diet where it was high fat in the morning, low to no carb, and then the carb sandwich, and then if you're going to eat again, a high fat, low carb after that. It immediately made me think of diabetics because that's literally the formula for how they have to eat if they're going to try to gain muscle. And I didn't make the connection then, but as I was talking, I was like carb sandwich, and I was like, wait a second, this sounds familiar.
Oh yeah, yeah, he does a really good job in that book of explaining and even giving you like almost exactly precise amounts in grams of and ratios of what you should have immediately even afterwards, because you can have too many or too much carb, or yeah, you could have
Too
too
many
many
carbs.
carbs after your workout that hinders the growth, because then you're giving it too much and overloading the sugar. So there's like a fine balance and a good ratio of carb to protein that you should have after your workout anyway. And I'd have to go reread that book because it's been a few years since I've read it. So yeah, but
I was gonna say, what would you recommend that the carbs should be? Because we've gone
uh,
over what protein should be.
yeah, I cannot quite remember. There was so much in that book, so much in that book. So it is hard for me to remember precisely what it is. I'd have to go back and read it again. And it's not that long of a read, so I could probably finish it in about like 2 days or something like that. So
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back so that next podcast I can give you a little bit more of a detailed answer.
So I know that some of your formula is based off of the daily caloric needs of a person, and then you decide the macros from there. Is that right?
Yeah, so you take, your weight, your age, all that good stuff. You put it in, you figure out your macros or you figure out your calories, and then from there you kind of split up the ratios. I usually do like a 35, 35, 30, like 35% carbs, 35% protein, 30% fat, based off of the calories. And then from there, once you know your grams, you kind of divide that out throughout the day, depending on when your workout is and how many carbs you should have based around when you work out. And then the rest of it could be fat and protein for the rest of the day with a little
Okay.
bit of carbs here and there.
My way is we find the BMR and we try to find it through a pretty accurate scale when it comes to like we could take a trip to Lifetime if we wanted to and use their scale, or we got the cheap one here and we kind of compare. And mine is actually pretty close to the one at that costs $17,000. And we take a general 100 calories up or down from that BMR. So we take it with a grain of salt. But it says that mine is at 2,800 calories, my BMR. And so we take that, and then we take the lean body weight, which is what you weigh without fat, and that's the protein goal in grams. There is some upper leeway to that, if you're the type of person that's genetically gifted and you can gain muscle really easily, you may need about 30% over that, or 15% over that, in my opinion. Then we multiply that by 4, subtract that from the BMR, and then we know how much is left to fill up with the BMR. And that is, let me actually do it real quick so I can make sense on the podcast. Calculator. There we go. All right, let me do mine real quick. 2,800 minus, parentheses, 185 times 4, other parentheses, then 7, that's 740. There we go, 2,000 divided by 4. Okay, so basically it's around 2 times your lean body mass in carbs. That's my general advice if you're trying to gain muscle, and 1 times your lean body mass, with protein. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. That's definitely one way to do it. I just mostly know that percentages, for the most part, like 40% carbs is great for building muscle. And
Okay.
then you obviously start to lower it once you start to try to lose weight, to get closer to a keto style diet. And it's worked for
Yeah.
me. It's worked for a lot of my clients. I just try to always keep it as simple as I can, and remember those percentages. But yeah, that's the way that I do it.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually wanted to bring up Duncan. He is on that crash diet that I assigned him, and there's a lot more benefits than, not a lot more, but there's more benefits than I even predicted from this so far. He's actually gaining muscle. He's gaining strength, and he's on a 500 calorie diet. Now he's not hitting 500. He's bouncing between 600 and 700. But that's kind of the point, anyways, is to just stricken him down and really make him decide, hey, what am I supposed to eat to really get to this very low goal? And I'm also giving him, if he's only going to eat 500, a 100-gram protein, a 100 grams of protein goal. So he has 400 calories of protein, and he only has 100 to play around with. And that alone is hard to do in the first place. And then on the days that it's 700, 150 grams of protein, and that is 600 calories from protein, and then 100 calories to mess around with. And so basically, he's really learning rapidly. Like within 10 days, he's already light years ahead in knowledge because he actually has to pay attention. And a lot of the things that we've been working together for a year and a half, and he's the type of client that sometimes says, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? And also later on, he's like, yeah, I added it in and played around with it, even though he said not to. I thought it'd be okay. I'm like, see, this is why some of these things happen. Now that he's actually looking at nutrition labels and really being concerned with lean cuts of protein, lean choices, things like that, and knowing what the calories are like the back of his hand, he has thrown out so many things. And he's like, oh my gosh, okay. And the plan is, when we reverse diet out of it, we're going to double his calories, where we're going to keep his protein probably around 150 to 175, and we're going to double his calories, basically just doubling what he's eating already. and then he's going to have a whole menu of choices to pick from by the time the month's over, because I told him don't eat just the same thing. I want you to explore a bunch of options and make a menu that is calorically restrictive but very high in protein so that you can definitely hit your protein goals, because before it was very hard for him to hit 200 grams of protein. And he was like, I'm stuffing myself. I was like, well, let's find most bang for your buck. And now he has. And so once he gets to 2,000 to 3,000 calories, he's going to be eating nothing but the right stuff. And he's going to be a monster when it comes to muscle. And I'm really excited for it. And he's already he's lost 10 pounds in 10 days, and he's gained 2 pounds of muscle.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he's lost 12 pounds of fat and body water. Yeah, yeah. So probably 6 pounds of fat, 6 pounds of body water, but I'm very excited for this, and not just the fat loss, but all the stuff he's learning. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen as a personal trainer, because it's like that eye-opening moment for the client. Also, viewers, do not try that at home unless you have a very well trained personal trainer and nutrition specialist to guide you through a hyperly low caloric diet. It's not for you. You should be eating well, working out, lifting weights, and doing cardio, and everything will be magically fine. I promise. That was not me advising the viewers to go down to a 500 calorie diet. That is not what's going on.
Yeah, that would need to be supervised probably by a doctor or so, because I know that a lot of people who do either alternate day fasting and stuff like that, they usually have to be supervised just to make sure that the insulin levels are good, that everything else is going well, and making sure that they aren't overdoing it. Because I've had a client who had 500 calories maybe that a day, and eventually got to the point where getting out of bed was difficult and making a decision was difficult. Like, she couldn't even think because she had no brain power. She had no calories to fuel anything. So, and then she had to eventually go to a clinic to make sure that she was getting in the calories she needed. So, yeah, a very low calorie diet can be detrimental if not supervised.
Yeah. So, moving on. It's your turn for a topic. I've run out of things to say.
Hey, no, you're good.
I'm sorry, podcast. I won't do it again.
No, that's a lot of good information for everybody. And hopefully a lot of people have taken something away from it that they can use. And that's the whole point of these podcasts anyways, to get information out for everyone to understand a little bit more about working out and diet.
All right. So, lats. So, do you have any more to talk about with the low calorie warning? Because we do want to emphasize that if you're not supervised by a professional, that is a very bad idea. And we're making sure all of his micronutrients are taken care of. We've listed all of them, listing it within the foods and all that. Don't take this on by yourself, and don't strive to do this low calorie diet. The way you lose fat is by gaining muscle, raising your metabolism, and lifting weights, and applying appropriate amount of cardio and healthy eating.
And too low for too long can start to crater your metabolism,
right,
and eventually lead to pretty bad metabolic issues. So again, Jad, just be careful with what you're doing when it comes to low calorie stuff.
All right. So, what is the best way to grow your glutes?
Grow your glutes, yeah. Squats, deadlifts, leg press, hip thrusts. Yeah, most of those, and full range to try and stretch the glutes, because that's kind of hard for a lot of people. A lot of abduction work is great. Making sure that you're hitting different angles is a very important aspect to growing your glutes. A lot of the lumbopelvic hip region is what you're trying to, or the lumbopelvic complex is what you're really trying to target when it comes to the glutes. And it's a feeling. You've got to make sure that you are utilizing that muscle for the movement and not your legs or your hamstrings. Because a lot of people overgrow their quads instead of their glutes because their quads are overpowering in the movement and they are underutilizing their glutes during the exercise. So you've got to make sure that you know how to contract and or squeeze your glutes when you're doing different exercises and how to execute the movement properly and where to apply the pressure. So a lot of people, when they do deadlifts, they feel it in their back. It's because they're not performing the exercise correctly and how they're applying pressure and where they're applying the tension. So a lot of people, when you do deadlifts, they're trying to lift with their back instead of squeeze their glutes and push into the floor, and that's a huge issue. So, and during squats, again, a lot of people tend to use their quads and go forward with their weight rather than through the glutes and heels, and underutilize the glutes. And if eventually you see your knees buckling inward when you're doing a squat or a leg press, it means that you definitely have weak abductors and pretty tight adductors. And so you need to try to change what you're doing. So an external rotation in the foot from the hip, engaging the piriformis and the glute medius is a great way to help stabilize the hip a little bit more and your leg so that you can work and feel the glutes a lot more. I do a ton of glute work with majority of my runners and majority of my clients to make sure that they're actually getting a strong, like I said, butt, so that they can have no lower back pain or knee pain. Because weak glutes can lead to very weak lower back and have back issues at some point, and knee and or even ankle and foot issues in the future. So the glutes are basically in the middle of your body, and they need to be worked a lot in order to help stabilize the body for the most part.
One telltale sign of a weak gluteus complex is duck feet.
Mhm.
If you're duck footed, or let's say you're straight footed but your ankles still sag in and you feel like your ankles collapse when you're trying to squat or bend down and pick up something, or if you're flat footed, and usually all three of those things are paired together, are kind of grouped
Mhm.
together: duck foot, flat foot, and ankles collapsing in. They're usually all around. If one person has one, they have all three. Or even if you just have one, that usually means that you have overactive adductors, meaning the muscles that squeeze towards the center line of your body. And these are the adductors in your legs. So if any of those three things happen in your feet on a normal basis, or one of them, let's say your right foot has a great arc, but your left foot does not. Or let's say you're cockeyed with your feet and you got one pointing forward and the other one pointing to the side over here, which I've seen. And it feels normal. That's the thing. You don't know it. You walk around and you're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. And then when I ask somebody if they're duck footed, it's almost like a family joke for them. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're all duck footed." I was like, "Oh yeah, you're all posturally deformed." So,
You're not wrong.
and
Oh
so,
yeah,
yeah, and it usually means that you have weak gluteus medius, uh, medii, medius is.
medius. Yeah, just glute medius. Yeah,
Okay, is that plural?
I would assume so. Yeah,
Both
I haven't
sides.
seen it any other way.
The side butt.
Hmm.
So both sides of the side butt. Its job. It's almost like a hand with thumbs. It wraps around the front of the leg and pulls out, and it pulls out towards the outside. And really, if it kept going, it would swivel all the way, and your knees would swivel around backwards behind you. It's trying to rotate your legs outwards, and it actually helps push your hips forward when that happens. And so it actually helps you hip thrust. So when you rotate out like that, it helps you hip thrust. If you're rotating in, that means it's trying to pull your hips backwards. And so if you were to squat and you squeeze in as you're coming up, you're trying to basically bend over as you're trying to stand up, and it just makes you look wonky. And you can tell the people that aren't, I'm about to look ridiculous right here, but you can tell the people that aren't doing it right because their butt isn't going down, but they're doing this right here, and they're not squatting whatsoever. And squats have nothing to do with how low your eyes go; it has everything to do with how low your tailbone goes. but their legs are staying perfectly still, and they're just fanning the air with their upper body, and
Mhm.
they call that squatting. And you see it a lot in group exercise too.
Yeah, I see that a lot actually. A lot of people are hinging from the back and using their back for a squat and not their legs. And so that's why I say, bend your knees, like get low, get your hips down, and then push the floor away. Don't lift your back. It's not a lifting motion, or it's not a lowering your upper body. I mean, a lot of people try to get low and then they lower their chest and not their hips. So that's a huge thing. And how you're placing the tension. A lot of people go forward into the balls of their feet and not like a tripod in your foot, from the ball of your foot, heel of your foot, and the outside of your foot. And so, yeah, fallen arches is a very good indication of very weak abductors and knee valgus in the future, because then their knees are going to start to go inward as well, leading to really, because when you sit all the time, you've got tight hip flexors, very tight adductors, very weak abductors, and very weak hamstrings.
And
So
abductors meaning going away from the center line of your body. So all the muscles that pull away from your body and trying to move the leg away from the center line of your body. Adductor adds to the center line. Abductor abducts from the center
yeah,
line.
yeah, I was about to say the easiest way to remember is adding to the inside and then abducting outside. So adductors add and then inward. So that's an easy way to remember. And so, yeah, you've got to make sure that when you're working glutes, you work the gluteus maximus, which is the largest muscle in the body, and then your glute medius, your glute minimus, and then your piriformis. And those are the things that you really need to make sure that you're working. And the piriformis can lead to the sciatic nerve getting pinched and leading to sciatica. So you need to make sure you're stretching that and working that, because a weak muscles in the glute minimus or medius can also lead to a very tight piriformis, because it's compensating for the fact that you have weak medius or glute minimus. So
And
whenever
also
you're
you're
doing like,
assigning, sorry, um, real quick. Also, you're assigning a muscle to do a task that's not meant to do. Just like if you are overactive in the shoulder in a bench press, eventually you're gonna hit a weight that tears your shoulder. Same with pulling a groin, and that's why people pull their groin so much, is because they stabilize. They're trying to stabilize both jobs of both stabilization, so inside and outside, with the inside, and so they're overactivating their groin, and eventually they're gonna trip and try to catch themselves and do a performance movement, which is a super tensation, and pull their groin because they stabilize by trying to squeeze inward rather than stabilizing by being in an outward stance. And naturally, the back brain naturally catching them and being like, oh, stabilize outwards, and then they're good. Sorry, I wanted to throw that in there.
you're good. Yeah. So, I mean, if you feel like you have a weak piriformis or weak minimus or medius, you need to just make sure you externally rotate as you do a glute kickback or a glute like swing, keeping the leg straight and kind of like uh, going back like that versus like a glute kickback. So say like this is the glute, this is your knee, that's your foot, and you want to kick back so that you strengthen the glute. Well, what you would want to do is externally rotate and then try to push out so that you get the minimus and medius a little bit stronger. Even when you do a squat, I tend to slightly turn out the toes so that the knees are pushed out and stay in alignment with the same direction that the toes are pointing. And at the very bottom, you should feel like a slight stretch in the glute. And then if you're doing a squat, let's just say, get your hips as low as you can, stretch the glutes, keep the knees pushed out for the extra abduction. And then before you push the floor away from you, as if you're trying to push the earth away from you, squeeze your butt and your core, and then push your knees down into the middle of your foot. And if you find that your foot is buckling inward or rotating in, you need to continue to try to work the abductors a lot more, push those knees out and get on the outside of your foot as you push. With deadlifts, a lot of people tend to use their back, again, like I mentioned earlier, because they think that it's a lifting motion. And I usually say, if they think about it that way, they're going to use their back. So I usually try to tell them that if you're doing a deadlift, push your hips forward and down. Don't think about lifting your back, because then that makes it a back movement instead of a glute hip movement. So with a glute, you also push as far back to the wall behind you as you can so that you get to eventually feel a stretch in your glutes and hamstrings. And then when you feel that stretch in the glutes and hamstrings, you squeeze your glutes and your hamstrings and flex forward and down into the ground, and tuck your pelvis at the very top of that motion. And then as you're going down, you straighten out your back, arch it in a way to try to keep the erectors engaged and strong. And then you don't let the weight ever go forward. You try to keep that weight almost like you're dragging it literally down the quad, down the knee, down the shin, so that you keep it in the middle of your foot in alignment so that you're not putting weight forward where your lower back has to compensate for that extra movement. And then, like if you do hyperextensions, like on that the machine where it's 45 degrees, and then you have to go down and up. A lot of people again use their back for that. So make it a glute movement and tuck your pelvis. So instead of lifting, you want to tuck your pelvis in and forward in order to get the best glute movement as you push up your heels and your calves basically into the pad. So it's kind of like you're trying to do this rather than just this. I'd have to really kind of get you in
He's
there.
making lordosis movements with his hand, everybody that's listening
Yeah,
and not
no.
watching.
It's a hip thrust. You want to tuck your pelvis in and hump the machine. Basically, is the best way to get you to visualize it.
That's a
Or
really good
if
way to
you
put
had,
it, actually.
or basically like if you had a bar going through your hips and the middle of your glutes, it's like someone is trying to rotate that bar and push your hips in so that you're not using your back to lift and get an overactive back and hurt your back and underactive glutes and hamstrings. And then obviously the glute abductor machine is really good to do as well. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna ask, what's your favorite glute exercise? If you could only pick one, like if you would die if you did multiple glute exercises in your life and you could only do one, what would it be?
Probably a Bulgarian split squat.
Really?
Yep.
What was that?
Overload that split lunge basically. Get as low as you can, and just think about your butt doing the most it can to drive your knee down, as if you're doing a glute kick. Or yeah, imagine yourself doing a glute kickback during the Bulgarian split squat, and you're going to activate your glutes a lot more. Because again, the glutes are responsible for a ton of different lower body movements, and if you utilize the lunge or leg press or squat or anything like that correctly, you're going to be utilizing your butt a lot more. And trust me, I mean, I've got a little badonk on me, so I kind of understand, and I've helped a lot of people with their badonk grow. So,
So, why would you pick that over, say, a deadlift, or even more specifically, like a Romanian deadlift?
because a lot of people can tend to do that wrong, and hurt
I
their back
gotcha.
more.
No, I'm talking about so you're saying that it's better for the public because it kind of forces you to be in a correct posture in the first place. But what about for you? Somebody that knows what they're doing, definitely is going to do it right. And I don't have an answer that I'm trying to lead to right now. I'm generally curious
No,
because
I would still recommend either like a reverse lunge or a Bulgarian split squat
okay,
because it's a single leg exercise, and so your body's working more, and that one leg is having to compensate for the whole body versus two legs in a deadlift. Yeah, you can go a lot heavier in a deadlift or a hip thrust, and those are good, but it's super easy to feel your butt when you are holding 45s and you're in a Bulgarian split squat and you go down and you force your butt to push your knee through your heels to feel your glutes a lot.
people miss that mark so often that the Bulgarian split squat or the split squat in itself is not a quad exercise, it's a glute exercise. And you see over and over again people trying to lean over their front knee and just press with that knee. And honestly, they're kind of destroying that knee with all that pressure, especially if they're going way up in weight and holding dumbbells on both sides and everything. And I when I'm teaching the Bulgarian split squat, I tell them, all right, hip thrust out of it. And they look at me, they're like, what? Like, how the heck do you hip thrust out of this thing? I was like, well, good posture and make sure you're going straight up and you're leading with your glute. And that's the driving force. And so I tell them it's like the legs are like two tectonic plates trying to build a mountain because they're meeting with force. And they're both evenly being used rather than the front one mainly doing all the driving and the back one basically being frozen and asleep.
Yeah, and the more compound movements like squats and deads are also a really great way to build the glute muscles rather than isolations. Because isolations are great, you're going to feel it, but you're not going to be able to go as heavy. And like I said, with Bulgarian split squat, if you're holding 45s in each hand, that's about 90 pounds for one leg. So that's really good. And if there's no cheating, you can't use the other leg to compensate, and it really helps to bring both glute muscles to equilibrium. And so you're not having maybe, like I like to say, one butt cheek bigger than the other. And I'm all about symmetry because that's, again, what, with bodybuilding, that is the biggest thing that we're also judged on. So, yeah.
So I really like when it comes to I know that every exercise has a different use, basically a different a zone that it targets really. And if back to the squat conversation, if somebody is not able to rotate out their legs, which is actually a very common problem, one of the main problems with most people that aren't used to squatting and they're tight basically between their legs and they can't really rotate out proficiently. One of the main things that I do is actually have them do a Romanian sumo deadlift. And for the main reason of you have to activate your gluteus medius in order to do that correctly. And so getting that mind muscle connection, getting that extreme rotation out when you're already splayed out in the first place. And so when you do a Romanian sumo deadlift correctly, you really feel it in the gluteus medius. And that's one thing I wanted to add to the squat conversation because I didn't mean for that to be a basically a dissection of the squat and an intro to squats, but I'm super glad it happened. So I wanted to make sure that we added that to it because one of the worst things about podcasts is that you can't really ask questions. Yes, some people have a questions form. We do too. But you're just basically listening. And one of my favorite podcasts is Mon Pump. And before, one of the reasons why they repeatedly just repeat things over and over again is because they say the same thing but in different words. And it takes about the sixth time for one person that needed that sixth different variation of what they said and to really hit home for them and make them understand correctly how to do it. Because before they added video to Spotify, there's also no video. There was no visuals and no examples, and it was just YouTube. But in order for someone to really get how to squat, I think we should attack it at a bunch of different types of angles because that is one of the most misunderstood exercises I think known to man because so many people do it wrong and so many people don't understand the purpose of a squat either. And you see all those people with quad dominant squats bending all the way over and with their upper torso and they're barely hitting their glutes whatsoever. The only part of the glutes that they're hitting is the bending back and really it's mostly lower back. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and another way that if people have weak abductors and they're trying to squat, then add a band. Add a band right below the knees, which will create more tension for the abductors than if you put a band above the knees. And so what I'll have people do is they'll do a squat, and I'll have them put the band beneath their knee and slightly turn the feet out so that they naturally abduct a little bit more, and then just push as hard as you can against the band outward. And that forces them to consistently push out, or their knees are going to buckle in, and it's going to be a terrible squat. I don't overload the squat with a lot of weight because the main function of that is just to hold a bar and to get down with their knees consistently staying outward and pushed out. So that is another great way, even on the leg press. Just if you've got a loop band, just put the loop band around below the knee to create that more tension in the abductors and have them consistently push against the band. Anytime they don't push, it's going to, like I said, force their knees inward. It's not going to feel great on the knee. And so they're going to be more inclined to literally try to push out as much as they can.
All right. Well, Paul, before we go, do you have any leaving remarks?
Work your butt.
Work your booty.
Yeah.
Your badonk.
Your badonk. Make sure you're working it. It's important.
All right, Paul. Say goodbye for your business.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, if you want, you can check out the Burn Academy, and I got certifications in glute training, bodybuilding, and corrective exercise. And you can head on over to theburnacademy.com and subscribe for $15 a month, or just hit me up about online training.
And all you fitness fanatics, you can find more stuff at personaltrainerandcompany.com. Not more than, but more as in Tim's version, and that's Paul's version, and we share everything. So,
Yeah.
peace out.
Yep.